This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday as we welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. Live as always from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Bonantoni. We're holding it down for the next 2 hours, and the Rocket Classic is underway right now. And you actually bet this golf tournament. I didn't even know.
Yeah. Look, we got to have some sweat here, some action, and we're in the midst of summer where not much is happening, and was really looking at the Rocket Classic, and I don't know about you, how much you watch golf and whatnot, but for me, there's every few tournaments, there's like one where for whatever reason I have caught myself watching it more often than not throughout the course of my life. The Honda Classic, when it was that for a while, and the Rocket Classic was one of those too. So I was just interested, was looking it up. I had gone pretty in depth for some odd reason about the course changes and everything like that, and I was like, hey, you know what? Let's bet this and have some fun. Nothing really crazy. One of the guys that I bet dropped out, so it's not really that big
Taylor
of a deal.
Moore. Get out of here.
But did ride with Kelly on his boy Jake Knapp that he loves so much. So we've got Knapp, and hopefully he can make a little bit of a push here in this thing. But some really low scores, man. I know. I think it was Fowler that was early on, was really up there. Malnati now is your leader after a 61 today. So we will be watching with great interest over the next couple of days. And speak of the devil, and he shall appear. My boy, Jake Knapp.
I guess that makes sense, too, that if this is a tournament you've watched more than some others in the past, that you would bet this one, because considering it's the last one that's going to be on tour now. So the Rocket Classic about to be out of the rotation after this.
Yeah, see? My boy Knapp did not get on the green.
No. We do have two Major League Baseball games in action right now as well. The Rangers up 2-1 over the Rays early. The Royals in the second inning scoreless right now against the Minnesota Twins. And we've got a couple that are about to start, including Yankees at White Sox as they wrap up a 4-game set. Wild one last night, too. I don't know if you saw, the Yankees were up 4-1 in the bottom of the 8th. Chicago, Sam Antonacci goes yard for a 2-run shot. Very next pitch, they get another solo shot. White Sox tied it up in 2 swings to force extras. Ultimately, didn't get finished until the bottom of 12, I think, when all was said and done. 6-5 final, Chicago walking it off. So big win for them. Terrible loss, though, for the Yankees here as they look to rebound today. A slight road dog today in Chicago.
Yeah, actually, the total is what interested me here, and the market is in agreement with me. We saw this on the overnight open 8 pick, -110 both sides. We're now down to 7.5, I think, across the board for the most part for this one. You get Ryan Weathers and Sean Burke. If you look at this, first off, big picture, both teams kind of in opposite form, right? Yankees 5-2 in their last 7, White Sox 2-5 in their last 7. Actually 5-7 in the second half as a whole, so like they're not really going that well for Chicago. But I think what you're going to get here is a relatively solid pitcher's duel. Last start for Weathers was really good. 5 2/3, gave up 6 hits, but only 1 earned run, struck out 7, walked 1. Meanwhile, the last time we saw Burke, it was against Houston. 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 10 strikeouts to 1 walk. For Weathers, he's actually been much better on the road for the New York Yankees. Away this season, 44 innings pitched, 3.89 ERA, and a 3.52 FIP in comparison to a home season that has had him with a 4.50 ERA over the course of 20 more innings. So I think you're going to get a better version of Weathers, who's coming off a pretty good start away from home. And for Burke, how about this stretch for Burke? And not our boy Berkey, because Adam Burke's always in good form. But how about this? Last 7 appearances, 6 of them starts. And by the way, in the one lone start, he still went 7 1/3. 44 2/3 Stormy, 1.61 ERA, 2.54 expected, and 2.39 fielding independent. He's pitched at least 6+ innings in 4 straight and 6 of 7 outings. Think you can get a pretty solid start from both guys here. Kind of trust that you're going to get these offenses to get tamped down a bit, and nothing crazy in terms of whether to push the ball out or anything like that. I know a couple of these games have been high scoring in the series, but agree with the market. I thought playing under 8 was going to be the play, and it's at 7.5 right now.
Same first pitch time over at Busch Stadium as well for the Cardinals and Cubs. Pitchers duel yesterday. Matthew Boyd went 7 scoreless. Dustin May gave up 1 hit and 5 scoreless. Both bullpens ended up shutting it out through 9 as well. That got closed out in extra innings, 3-2 in the 10th for St. Louis. Today, Andre Palante and Javier Assad going head-to-head. Virtual pick'em game, slight edge to St. Louis. How do you see it?
Yeah, we saw, I think it was Circa that opened up to -120 in favor of St. Louis. Now, like you mentioned, like a small drift toward the Cubs here, 8.5 that total. I mean, you can make the case, I think, that Assad is due for some regression. I think that was the angle that I wanted to take. The 3.06 ERA on the surface looks great, but the expected numbers, Stormy, are way higher. 4.64 expected, 5.04 fielding independent, 2.37 on the batting average on balls in play so far this season, 7.9% barrel rate, and a 48% hard hit rate. 2 really worrisome numbers that you would expect at some point once you start to give up some hard contact that you're going to get got. Problem is, we say this all the time when it comes to chasing some of the regression. are the Cardinals the team that I want to use to chase that regression? This team has fallen off a cliff. A lot of baseball heads were expecting that this was going to have some sort of fall back down to earth. They're 4-9 in the second half. They're 7-15 in the last 22 games. They've not been playing particularly great baseball. So maybe going after Assad is a thing I want to do, but a little bit more down the road. And the market seemingly at odds with what I'm thinking here as opposed to the total in the last game. Because like I said, open up -120 in favor of St. Louis. And Palante's pitched well. And I thought that maybe it was going to be St. Louis here for me, but small drift towards Chicago. I think that it would be St. Louis or nothing, but I've gotten in a lot of trouble chasing some of the regression for some of these guys before, so I will not do just that. And instead, I think what I'm going to do, so we can have something to watch here, let's play a first 5 under in this Yankees-White Sox game. How about that?
Okay, first.
By the way, thank you, Justin, for pointing this out. But Burke, who is getting that start for the White Sox, the favorite, correct, to lead the day in strikeouts today.
Beautiful.
Plus 350.
Also, just of note real quickly that total in Cubs-Cardinals was a juiced under 9. Now it's a juiced under 8.5. So that's where the money's been coming in that one. Okay, we will talk more Major League Baseball a little bit later on in the show, especially with the fallout of yesterday's game in Detroit and Tarek Skubal, what we expect to be now his final start out there. But let's set the table for everything else that is to come today on Money Moves.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
All right, JVT, as NFL training camp tour continues here on VSiN, we head to the Charm City today, and the Baltimore Ravens will ninth time be a charm, perhaps. Season 9 for Lamar Jackson. He's got a couple MVPs, but no team hardware yet. Can they get over the hump with the new coach?
It's pretty clever, Stormy. Really like that rundown nugget right there. I think so. I mean, really, it's all on the shoulders of Minter, right? I think that if you have a healthy Lamar Jackson, you have one of the best offenses in the NFL. I think we're done questioning that at this point right now. Is the defense going to be any better than what it was last year with one of the easier schedules in the National Football League to put yourself in position to finally get it done? I would say yes, but I am not a very trustworthy person. So once you burn me, I'm out. And I got burned last year by the Baltimore Ravens, and I don't know if I can do it again.
I am looking forward to that preview and just beginning our foray into the AFC North. It's a very interesting division, in my opinion. We'll also get into a lot of college football, as we have been the last couple of weeks. Big Ten Media Days continuing in Minnesota, one of a handful of teams rowing the boat upstream in this league. We'll hear from Gophers head coach PJ Fleck, UCLA's Bob Chesney, and some others as they try to put their teams in the contention conversation for a league that's become a little bit top-heavy.
You're in your bag this morning with this. This is absolutely fantastic.
JVT made the rundown today. All right? All right? We get it.
Yep, it was actually brilliant, very clever. I'm with you. That's why I want to talk about some of these teams as well, a little at length, just because, we were texting about this morning about putting the rundown together. Once the season starts and we have like these little spots and hits and whatever, yeah, we'll probably hit on UCLA and Michigan State. But in the grand scheme of things, when you're previewing a season, we generally gravitate toward the top, unless it's a conference like the Mountain West or something like that. So it's always good to get a little bit of expansion on some of these teams. And I think Michigan State's a really interesting group. UCLA with the change of head coach and what that means for them. And you mentioned Minnesota. Hey, man, Fleck's got some stuff to work with. They're a pretty experienced team and could be one of those little spots in the Big Ten schedule where if you have to take a trip to Minnesota, it might be a little bit more difficult than you expect.
And how about this top item, training camp or training room? This was my favorite you put together because these first few days of NFL training camps have been a house of horrors for a handful of teams already, seeing players dropping like flies. We will discuss that and more, but there's also been a lot of news to get into, including contracts. Yesterday, we saw star running backs Bijan Robinson for the Falcons and Jahmyr Gibbs for the Lions holding in at their respective camps, meaning that they're at practices to avoid the fines. They're just not doing any work at this point, but neither expected to practice or work until a deal is done. Both are signed through the 2027 year with their fifth-year options. Saquon Barkley is the highest paid running back in the league right now at $20.6 million. And so clearly two guys that are the top of the board for Offensive Player of the Year this year, trying to get what they feel they deserve as well.
Yeah, much like we saw with Saquon Barkley, that you remember the year of the running back when it looked like they were all going to band together and maybe hold out. And look, it's a position that we know has a very short shelf life, takes a lot of physicality, and so your penchant for suffering injuries is pretty high. I don't know if it's higher than the other positions, but you take a physical beating, so you know that these guys are probably going to hold out as much as possible. I would say that, as I always do, it is July 30th. Wake me up when we get to the end of August, and everything is still being held up, but I would expect that we're going to see these guys get their deals done. We see it all the time. Was it yesterday? Was it Grant Delpit yesterday who was holding in? And then did you see this clip? So it was a Browns player. I'll tell you exactly who it is. I have to look it up. But the long story short is he was holding in, but as he was at practice, they got a deal done. GM Andrew Berry runs out to tell him, "Hey, the deal's done," and like the whole team starts celebrating whatever it is. So like these things might get done. I wouldn't worry too much, but no denying, Lions have one of the easiest schedules in the National Football League, and they need Gibbs to be Gibbs if they're going to get that done. And I love the Atlanta Falcons and Bijan Robinson. Maybe not the new hairstyle, but I do love Bijan Robinson. I do think that I would probably need him out there if they're going to achieve the things that I think they can.
You did get Tua Tagovailoa back out there today. You
Much
see that
needed.
in practice?
Much
so
needed.
There we go.
Yep, got a helmet on.
But to your point, I mean, Bijan Robinson is one of the best, if not the best, offensive players in football right now with what he does and the multifaceted ability on the ground and through the air, what he brings. And then for Gibbs, with David Montgomery out of that running back room now, you're the guy. So, yes, inevitably these guys will get paid. But the thing that always stresses me out, I think, from a betting perspective, or if I was a fan.
Did you not see that before?
No, I did not see that picture.
I just showed Stormy Bijan Robinson's new hairstyle because you looked at me weird like you had no idea what I was referencing.
Didn't.
Yeah, like that's the new haircut.
No, it's not.
Yes,
Stop.
it is.
Stop it.
Justin, I'll send you this picture. We can pull this up.
You're a ridiculous person. But all that to say, as
focus on the important
I'm a 49ers fan, as you know very well.
Are you?
And I've been through too many instances where, like Nick Bosa, for example, or Deebo Samuel when he went through his contract negotiation, Brandon Ayuk, look at how that turned out, where when they get to the season after having to deal with contract negotiations that bled deep into training camp, they weren't the same guy. And so I guess in terms of offensive player of the year, where these two guys are at the top of the board, if this is something that bleeds deeper than you expected, could it be something that impacts games? I would expect not. I think these deals, especially knowing what Saquon earns, should be pretty cut and dry what you get done. So we'll have to wait and see. Another contract we definitely need to discuss. We heard from Baker Mayfield this morning. The Bucs situation getting a little bit interesting out there in Tampa. We'll be right back.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Here on Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. And while in the last segment we discussed a couple of players that are holding in at NFL training camps, there's a little bit of a different situation going on in Tampa Bay. We got the news earlier this week that I know at least stunned me a little bit personally, that nose tackle Vita Vea had requested a trade out of Tampa as he enters the final year of his deal. And Baker Mayfield, while we knew that he had set a hard deadline for the start of training camp to be done with negotiations, with him not having put pen to paper, he meant it, and he's out there practicing, but he's not negotiating with the team anymore. And he spoke earlier today to the media about how he feels about the fact that they didn't get a deal done.
I've told you guys, I've been pretty upfront and honest about my feelings about Tampa. It being home for now our family. We're raising kids here. We love it here. I wanted the deal done and set the deadline and told them it was going to be all ball after that. And I did mean that. And I don't know if they thought I was just going to take some of the offers that they gave, but I'm at the point of my career and understanding what I've brought to this franchise. One, I'm very, very thankful for the chance they gave me. Do not get me wrong on that. But I've also I really know what I've brought to this franchise, leadership-wise, and even play-wise. It's been some of the best years of my career, and I think it's only going to trend upwards, just being comfortable and feeling that. So disappointing in that regard to not have, to feel disrespected a little bit.
He also said he felt undervalued after thinking that he had earned a new contract. I kind of like a little bit of a disrespected Baker. As that went on, and you can go find this clip on X or on YouTube as the Bucs post their press conferences, he went even further on it. He said he'll continue to answer questions today, but after today, he's not going to talk about it anymore because he's not negotiating anymore.
Yeah, so it sounds like the offer was 2 years, and what I saw was nowhere near the $50 million club, which is where he would like to be at this point right now. It's kind of tough because... So first off, he has played pretty well at his time in Tampa Bay, despite turnover at offensive coordinator every year he has been there.
Yes.
So he has had two of them left for good reason. Obviously, we saw two of them go and get head coaching jobs. We'll see how they work out as head coaches. But either way, the offenses were really good, and they departed. Last year, though, and this is where it becomes tricky, which is what do you get paid for? Do you get paid for what's going to be or what you just did? Because last year, it was his worst year in a Buccaneers uniform. 6.8 yards per attempt, the lowest in a Bucs uniform. 26 touchdowns, the lowest in a Bucs uniform. The 28 turnover-worthy plays, Stormy, the highest in a Bucs uniform. The turnover-worthy play rate, the worst in a Bucs uniform. So he's
injured a lot of the season as well.
Sure, but he's coming off of, statistically, his worst year in that uniform with that team. It's not like he is a bum by any stretch. I think that's just where you get this difference of negotiating of, all right, do we want to pay a guy who does play through injury, albeit, but gets injured quite a bit, is a physical runner, even though he's very demure for a quarterback, and we have to sign him to a long-term deal, maybe worth $50 million, and then we know exactly what that means for these teams. How often do we see it? When you pay your quarterback, especially that money, then other positions suffer, and you can't invest the way that you have in other spots. So that's, I think, the base of the negotiating. We'll see if they eventually come to terms after the season, but it sounds like he's serious in the sense of, all right, that's going to be it. And I thought Mina Kimes brought up a great point when they talked about this on her podcast, which is, do you get this chip on the shoulder, to use your term, Baker Mayfield, or who was it yesterday? I got a bag of chips on my shoulder, or who was it?
We're going to hear that sound later today.
Oh, okay, sorry. I apologize. Sorry. Jeez. Anyway,
Fitzgerald, though.
Thank you. But either way, does he become more aggressive? Does he start to put his body more on the line? Does he actually start to play worse only because he's trying to be that pissed off version of Baker Mayfield that is taking more chances? And it could lead to some really high highs, but it also could lead to some really low lows. And you wonder what that means for his play. I know you talked about, the elongated contract negotiations affecting players, but you wonder if a pissed off Baker Mayfield, kind of seeing red, for lack of a better term, actually doesn't or isn't capable of putting together a strong season.
I still think that they're the rightful favorites in the division. The way that the year fell apart for them last year, I know, is extremely disappointing. Like, when we were talking about Baker at the beginning of the year, it was in the MVP conversation. Like, he was getting MVP chance at games.
I was all over it. Don't ask me what happened after that.
Let it, like a cookie in milk, it crumbled. But let's get on to the second half of this contract situation in Tampa, which is Vita Vea, because we do have, several odds posted, whether it be in the prediction markets or other places like BetOnline, about where his next team will be. The Bucs are still the favorite ultimately to keep him at 55% over at Kalshi, but the reports have been that he would like to go to a California team or the Raiders. And me personally, somebody like, we've been talking about all the injuries going on with San Francisco, they could certainly use some defensive line help. And he went to high school about 6 miles away.
Got to pay him, though.
From Levi Stadium. And so that was the only thing for me. But, like, you see on the odds, he's like the third or fourth shot, depending on where you look at Kalshi, 32%, for that to be a potential option. I would like that. Anywhere in particular outside of Tampa you think's a fit, or does he just end up a Buccaneer?
I feel like he just ends up a Buccaneer. Because I do wonder if they're the Bucs. This seems a little bit easier than Baker, because it sounds like with Baker, they're off on contract length and they're off on value by quite a bit. Where with Vita Vea, it's pretty clear for a guy who's in his 30s as a defensive tackle that he just wants money. And so do you give him that really big bump for the season and then move on from there? Because who was it? It was I believe it was Trey Hendrickson, if I remember correctly, a similar deal, right? Which was, we'll just increase your money for this final year and then we'll get you out of here and you can go do whatever you want. And I think that might be a similar situation. So maybe this is a little bit easier to put together if you're Tampa Bay and then move forward with it. Because I think, look, there's no denying, if they're going to be good this year, and I think you would agree as somebody who believes in their role here as the favorite, and I would say, too, they deserve to be the favorite, they need him. They need Baker Mayfield, obviously, but they also need Vita Vea because this defense was already pretty average last year. You need your best defensive lineman to then open up everything else for what you have along this defensive line, this defense as a whole, if he's going to be out there.
Well, another team, I believe in, and I believe you do as well, is the Cincinnati Bengals, and they started training camp with a bang, a little bit of a skirmish yesterday. Jamar Chase tore off and threw cornerback DJ Turner's helmet on the practice field. Guys were jawing and getting into it, and their quarterback, Joe Burrow, was asked after practice about the edge that he saw.
Number one sure had one today. Number 0 did too. So, those two are two of the best in the league, and they're going to be going at it every day. So, whenever those guys need to get excited to get better, go ahead and do it.
Do you like that? Is that good?
To an extent, when it starts to interrupt practice, not too much, but if you can, maybe punch somebody in the face in about 15 to 20 seconds and then get back lined up, that's probably ideal.
That is another just reminder of how different y'all are as men. Just like hit each other and then move on. We're fine. We're over it after that. But how do you view an early fight in camp? Is it like a good thing in a sense that they're getting after it the way that they are and their competitive juices are flowing, or is it a negative thing?
It's a positive thing. I mean, we've had fights here. I think we're very good for camaraderie. It pushes you to get a little bit better.
You've had fights with other shows. I don't think you've had a fight with me.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, well, we argue. That's good. It gets the juices flowing. And, the fight with the other show, you saw it. You get down dirty, and then the next day you move on. You get focused up. You get ready to go. This is a good thing. And by the way, you would think, too, I mean, at some point, isn't there some sort of internal fire and or being pissed off internally about hey, guys, let's not play like absolute, know what, in these first couple of weeks of the season, as we always do, it seems, every single year. And let's actually go out there and get off to a good start. And maybe that good start means, let's maybe get into it because you're not playing with the same compassion, fire, whatever it is, that I expect you to, given the history of our team in the beginning portions of the season.
They actually did win the first 2 games of the season last year, if you
remember. First time ever for teams. Yeah.
Under Zach Taylor, it had not been good. But what we have talked about a lot with this team is this should be the best offensive line that Joe Burrow has played with to this point. Obviously, he's got weapons in Jamar Chase, who's the 3rd shot on the board for Offensive Player of the Year, and T. Higgins, a great tandem there. He has talked about this team being the best that he's been a part of since he's been a Cincinnati Bengal, and he had a team that he went to the Super Bowl with. He was saying it brings up shades of when he was at LSU in 2019, that national championship run that they went on. And we know this whole season hinges on 2 things. It is Joe Burrow, if he is healthy, and if this defense comes to play and is at least not the very worst in the entire National Football League, it doesn't help that their first-round pick from a year ago, Shamar Stewart, had a pretty severe leg injury yesterday. So still awaiting more timeline details about what that's going to look like. But they brought in a lot of other pieces on defense as well. Dexter Lawrence, Jonathan Allen, Boye Mafe. In the draft, you get Cassius Howell from Texas A&M, Takario Davis. They've done a lot of things to invest on that side of the ball. It's a real bummer, though, about Shamar Stewart, because Al Golden and others have been pretty glowingly talking about the jump that they expected him to make from last year to now. But a group overall, I think both of us are pretty optimistic about what they can be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was going to be part of it. He had to be part of it. So I don't know about you. I'm not deterred by any stretch of the imagination. I think the pieces as a whole still add up to something.
But that's about
absolutely.
the extent of it.
But I mean, really, it's going to come down to, because again, if you're as good as we think you're going to be on offense, I just need you to creep back toward average. I don't need
a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't need top 10. Top 15 will do it for me, and you can be closer to 15 than you are to 1. So that is what you need from this Bengals defense, because I think we all know at this point they're going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL from an efficiency standpoint if Joe Burrow remains healthy. And you've got one of the easier schedules, too. We just need you to be adequate.
I mean, they lost 6 games where they scored more than 25 points, 4 losses where they scored 33.
Right.
That shouldn't happen. The Bengals, by the way, are a team that I wrote up as a part of the college football betting guide. One of my best bets. I took their season win total over 10.5. Yes. Did I say college football? Yeah. Oh, well, that's coming out soon. It's on the brain.
Personally, I think they would dominate in college.
It's on the brain. But both guides, you only get if you're a VSiN Pro subscriber. If you head over to vsin.com/subscribe today, it is the last couple days for our early bird special where you can get full VSiN Pro access for $175 now through the Super Bowl. But yes, the over 10.5 on Cincinnati's win total, one of my best bets. Because college football is on the brain, why don't we talk about it coming up later on this hour?
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
As we were talking about the Cincinnati Bengals last segment, did see an update from Zach Taylor that it looks like several weeks for Shamar Stewart, but that they avoided worst case scenario, which is good. It's a hyperextended knee. Did you see the video of that thing, by the way? It did not look good when it happened.
Yeah, I did not see the actual
Don't
injury.
watch it. I wouldn't recommend it.
I'm going to now.
But a lot of the reports, too, calling him naturally bendy. So I guess that is a good sign.
Sounds like somebody at this desk.
That is true. I'm a big yoga gal over here. I thought you might have been talking about you. You've been working on that pike stretch.
Well, no, you've told me that. I think that's literally the term you use about yourself. Don't you say you have like a weird spine or something like that?
That's true. Yes. I have bad scoliosis that has made me be able to do good flexible things there. But let's move on from...
Stormy's actually 6'4", but she has to walk like this.
No, it's true. Like, if there was a rod in my back, I would probably be like 6'1". It's true. It's true. Exactly what Dwayne Colucci, I know, would love to hear as he joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line.
The Hunchback of San Diego.
Sportsbook manager at the resort at Summerlin. You've seen me in real life, Dwayne. My hunchback isn't that bad.
No, not at all, Stormy. You have excellent posture.
What a guy. What a guy. Appreciate you. But I guess while we're on the Bengals here, from a future standpoint, is this a team that you've seen any support on in the offseason, knowing that Joe Burrow's coming back healthy?
Yeah, definitely. You know, anytime that Joe Burrow's involved and, you know, his health is not a stipulation, it definitely enhances the win totals for the particular team. Now, you notice that there was some squabbles. It looked like, you know, some fights among the players, which is not all that great, in my opinion. But Cincinnati is, you know, 20-1 to win the Super Bowl here at Caesars Sports and the resort at Summerlin. And it's all according to, can they protect Joe Burrow? That's the whole key. I mean, you know, you have the weapons, the defense, you know, that's always a question mark if games get out of hand, if they could hold them into games. But anytime you have Chase and you have Burrow, there's definitely some weapons. And the whole key there, Stormy, is, like I said, the health of Joe Burrow. Can the offensive line support him and keep him on the field?
AFC North is going to be a theme for us today, Dwayne, because we're going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens as part of our training camp tour. What do you guys have the Ravens at over at Caesar Sports when it comes to winning the AFC, the Super Bowl, and are they a popular wager at the window and an expectation that Lamar Jackson could bounce back this year along with the team?
Oh, without a doubt, JVT. You know that they're definitely the favorite in that division, minus 105 to win the North Division. And we do have Cincinnati at plus 170, which is a close second, you know, considering how Baltimore looks on paper. They definitely look like a strong contender, and it shows in the Super Bowl reflection as well, plus 12-1. So, you know, 1,200, 12-1. So they're the third choice. And a lot of pressure on Lamar again. I mean, you know, you get to these points where you get on the cusp of the playoffs, and his health is always in question. First 3 or 4 years of his career, he wasn't even playing or suiting up in the playoffs. And there's a lot of question marks with the coaching change surrounding the Baltimore Ravens. But the public is definitely backing them, John. You know, it's very interesting that they have the same odds as the Seahawks. Now, granted, I believe that's because the Rams are in that division, and they're, you know, been the market measurer so far, 5-1 only to win the Super Bowl here at Caesar Sports and the resort at Summerlin. But Baltimore coming in second choice of the AFC and definitely competitive in the market when you're talking about future wagers.
We mentioned how short the Los Angeles Rams are now as a favorite to win the Super Bowl. Obviously, they make the big move for Myles Garrett. All this talk about Aaron Donald potentially coming back as well. How big is the difference between them and the next closest teams there with Baltimore and Seattle for the disparity of the prices? Like, what is that like for you guys? Plus 550 to what exactly?
To 10-1 on the Buffalo Bills, Stormy. So there's a big, you know, gap there, and I think everybody's handicapping that Donald will play and definitely be a factor. You have Garrett there, but this is another team that you only go so far as Matt Stafford takes you, and if he ever goes down early in the season, then your back is against the wall betting on such a low price for a team to win the Super Bowl. It's really amazing how much handle we've had on the Los Angeles Rams and the discrepancy between the two AFC teams, where you have Buffalo 10-1, Baltimore 12-1, and Seattle, like you said, 12-1. Plus, it's a stacked division. I mean, here at Caesar Sports and the resort at Summerlin, 10.5 is the win total on Seattle and San Francisco. So, you know, naturally the Rams are higher than that, but that's a competitive division, and definitely the NFC is a very, very competitive landscape and scenario. And this is before we even play a game, Stormy. So keep that in mind. If Matt Stafford ever goes down, Nakua's banged up like he was last year, there's some factors other than just getting Garrett and Donald back on the field.
So we're talking about a lot of these really good teams at the top. Let's talk about some middle-tier teams, but that also might be kind of popular. Am I right, Dwayne, in saying that the Saints have been a popular wager for you at the window? We were talking about them the other day, and it seems like a lot of people expect some pretty big things for New Orleans.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, their division is not as, you know, I don't want to say it's as tough as the West or, you know, in the NFC or the East or whatever. You know, they're sitting at 90-1. So we did see some flashes of cash. Definitely they were higher than that to start the season. I think they were closer to 200-1. So, yeah, we are starting to see a little Saints action. Definitely looking to turn the corner with this team. They showed some flashes last year, but I think it's going to be very difficult for them to sustained and definitely, make a push for the Super Bowl, but definitely could make the playoffs. We have props like that, to make the playoffs and different other scenarios here at the Caesars and Resort at Summerlin Sportsbook. So I'm checking right now, JVT, to see what they are to make the playoffs. Plus 180, not too bad. So, we are seeing a lot in the market on the New Orleans Saints as one of those middle-of-the-road teams that could definitely make some noise. Also, teams like the Atlanta Falcons, plus 230 to make the playoffs. We've seen some action on them as well. These are middle-of-the-road teams that it's a crapshoot, but anything could happen in the NFL regular season, and you want to look at that strength of schedule when you're dabbling in on these wagers as well, and definitely check who their opponents are, how many road games. The European games are definitely a huge factor, especially that opening week. So, keep your eye on it. It's definitely going to fluctuate as we get more handle and more money on these middle-of-the-road teams.
Here in Vegas in particular, obviously with the Raiders being here, I know that's a team that you have people coming to the window on for better or for worse. With the news earlier this week from Clint Kubiak that it appears Kirk Cousins is going to be QB1 here going into camp, and then we'll see what that looks like for Fernando Mendoza as the season goes on. What are people coming up to the window at the resort at Summerlin saying to you about Vegas?
Well, Cousins, we know he's a stat hound. I mean, he's a good fantasy quarterback, Stormy, but getting you through the playoff cusp, it's going to be difficult. That division is so tough. 125 to 1, you have a lot of your diehards that are just betting 5s and 10s, especially at a local casino like mine here at the resort, where people are just throwing down their money, hoping that something could happen good, like the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm sure that the same is going to happen with the A's when they come here. But I think Cousins is the right decision. We'll see how Mendoza reacts in the preseason as well as, in practices, and how he starts to get better and better as he learns the playbooks and the style of Kubiak and all that. But definitely, I think Cousins is the right decision. 125 to 1 at Caesar Sports to win the Super Bowl, which, I think it's a little short. You might be able to shop around. As I said, we have a lot of people that are just throwing 5s, 10s, 20s on the Raiders, hoping something good could happen. But there's only 4 teams with higher odds as well than them. And, it's not a good reflection. I hope they turn the corner and start to put a better product on the field. It's been catastrophic the last couple of years.
No doubt about it, Dwayne. And I know that our boss, Steve Cohen, is listening. He is a Raiders fan. That is not the result that he wanted to hear. That is for sure. Thank you for the time, as always. We appreciate you, Dwayne.
Definitely, Stormy. JVT, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
You as well. Dwayne Clucci, everybody. But I will say, for Steve Cohen, who is listening, just know that me as a 49ers fan, I just got some bad news as well. The 49ers reportedly preparing for Ricky Pearsall to miss the entire season now.
Lies, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That escalated pretty quickly.
It did indeed. Matt Maiocco, NBC Sports out there in San Francisco, quote, "I think it is reasonable, rational, and logical for the 49ers to not expect Ricky Pearsall to make any contribution in 2026.
Okay. Well, how you feeling?
Don't love it. For anybody who missed it over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, what happened?
The injuries that have already come down in camp, well, I guess he reported to camp with the swollen knee with the PCL injury, and I guess, according to the reports, the expectation is that this is going to be a little bit more serious. Christian Kirk is already missing time as well with a calf injury. Obviously, everything that's going on with Brandon Ayuk, he's no longer in the wide receiver room. Jordan James has broken ribs as your RB2. An offensive tackle has an ankle injury. 2 defensive players injured right now, including free safety Malik Mustafa. So it's not going great. And I mean, your head coach reports to camp with concussion protocol coming out of the car accident. Like, this is just, everything's fallen apart before it's even gotten started in San Francisco.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane what's going on right now.
I will say, though, with the wide receiver injury issues, Mitch Moss actually brought this up when we were doing the change out yesterday with Follow the Money, that Dejon Stribling, who's the second-round pick out of Ole Miss that San Francisco got, Offensive Rookie of the Year, 25 to 1, could be a look with all the issues they have health-wise in that group once again.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
day to enter, ladies and gentlemen, as Winner Circle Proxy and your friends here at VSiN are giving away 2 prize packages that will put 2 of you into the world's biggest football contest here at Circa for free, but the window is closing. One winner will get a $1,000 entry into Circa Survivor, another an entry into Circa Millions. Both will also receive a full season of Winner Circle Proxy service. You can play from anywhere, a VSiN studio tour, come hang out with us, and a free month of VSiN Pro Access. Entries close tomorrow just before midnight. Visit winnercircleproxy.com/VSiN to enter now. That's winnercircleproxy.com/VSiN. I live here and I have to use a proxy as well because of the traveling that I do over the weekends. He's Jonathan Von Tobel, Stormy Buonantony with you. Excited to be back with you. And while we've done a lot of National Football League conversation today because of training camps back underway, it's talking season in college football as well. Big Ten Media Days in day 3 now out there in Chicago. And it was really interesting listening to some of the head coaches that were on the podium yesterday. Yes, we'll hear from a couple of the big dogs in the league a little bit later on when we get to our preseason Money Moves Top 25 reveal. But one of my favorite college football hires this offseason was Bob Chesney over at UCLA. Comes over from JMU where he had a ton of success, 21-6 the last 2 years, brings James Madison to the college football playoff last year. They were Sun Belt champs for the first time ever. And when you look at what they're trying to put together this year, could be a big step for the Bruins just in season number 1 under Chesney. Brings both of his coordinators with him, his best guys from JMU, and the number 11 ranked transfer portal class in the country. But what might be most important for UCLA this year, JVT, is that they got their quarterback to stay. Nico Iamaleava, another year out there for the Bruins. And here is Chesney on the podium yesterday discussing how he was able to get Iamaleava to stay and what things might look like this year.
So it was just a matter of making sure he understood that we had a plan. That was it, right? That was the most important thing we could do to make sure he stuck around, and he did. So then after that, it becomes, all right, now let's start taking the next step for him personally, and I just love the growth he's had as a leader. I think when you look at last year, and I've been on record saying this, when your head coach, your coordinator, everybody leaves that program in week 3, after he only got there in the second half of the summer. So he spent 3 or 4 weeks with them through camp, and then all of a sudden there's a major change. That's a challenge, and it's hard to lead in those moments when you don't really even know everybody. So to watch him just grow and run with this and flourish at this moment as the leader, he was unanimously voted the leader of our football team when we did voted our leadership council. He was at the top by a large margin, and that just speaks to the way he carries himself on a day-to-day basis. And we're going to need him to be really, really good on Saturdays as well.
I mean, everybody had really high expectations for him last year, and I know it didn't pan out that way for them as a team, but he was still great with his legs. He has a lot of skill. What do you think?
I mean, I would agree. I think one of the big things he's really good at is he doesn't put the ball in danger a ton. So if he's going to take care of the football, and I think that we don't give enough. There's times where we will discuss it, but I don't think we do give enough credit to the tumult that you're discussing there when you're talking about staff changes, differences in the offense, play caller changes, all those sort of things when it's already a new environment that you're dealing with coming in from Tennessee. So, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense that with a little bit more, we'll call it a little less chaos, actually is a better way to put it, then I think that maybe you can get a little bit more out of a guy who already has the skill set to do it with the athleticism and his penchant for taking care of the football. So I do have to think that you're pretty excited about what this looks like with him in this system with Chesney.
For sure. And I'm really pumped about kind of the 1-2 punch on the ground with what he can do with his legs and Wayne Knight, who they bring over from JMU, although it is visually going to be a little bit weird because how tall is Nico? I mean, he's one of the taller quarterbacks in college football.
6'5" listed?
Yes. Yeah. Wayne Knight's like 5'6". Yeah. 5'7" is probably what he's listed as, but he's not that big. But he is an absolute rock star stud. A lot of the pieces that they brought in, he comes over from JMU, DJ Barksdale, Zahir West for a pass rush that was as bad as it was for UCLA last year. They only had 10 sacks. Zahir West himself had 9. So I'm looking at this schedule this year, and there are obviously some challenges. But, I mean, I could see them getting to a bowl game. I could see this being like a 7-8-win team if things actually fall right for them.
Yeah, I think they have the potential to do that. It's obviously dependent on what Chesney's going to be schedule-wise.
They landed some good dudes in the portal too.
I think what's going to be interesting is and it's the first game, but one of those really big flip games when you're talking about this schedule is going to be on the road against Cal to start the season. You do get to play host to San Diego State. That's a game that you should win, we'll say, but might be a little bit tighter than you initially expect. You should be able to beat Purdue. some of these road games are difficult. I mean, making the trip all the way out to Maryland is going to be pretty tough. We talked about the sneaky spot for Minnesota. You know, Illinois, we talked about them a little bit more yesterday, but it's going to be an interesting, we'll call it at the very least, would you assume, a coin flip type spot. So I think there's some opportunities there on the schedule. I also think there's some sneakier tough spots on the schedule where if the team improves the way we expect, then maybe there's going to be a higher probability that they lose this game than we think right now. A good example of that is home against Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You know, you're really high on that Wisconsin team. If everything hits that you expect for Fickell and the Badgers, then all of a sudden that game at home, coming off of a road game against Oregon, becomes a little bit more difficult. And I'll just say, not that I think that this is going to be a game in which you lose.
Week 2?
No.
When they play SDSU. That's the only reason.
No, I was just going to say, because it's funny, because I think it was Mike Monsanto up on Twitter. I had commented on, he had put his rankings for his bottom 25 power-rated teams in college football, and one of them was Nevada. And I just commented, they have a lot of talent coming back. They got a couple of preseason All-Mountain West guys on that defense. Chode's a pretty good defensive mind. I think they're going to be an underrated group to start the year, and you do wonder if those things hit, and maybe that becomes a sneaky trap spot for you, if you will, just overlooking a non-conference opponent on Halloween of all days. But either way, you should be able to beat them. I'm just talking about, in general, some of these spots might be a little bit more difficult than you think, but I would generally agree with you. Bowl seems to be achievable.
All right, let's go to Michigan State, another new head coach in the Big Ten, former Northwestern head coach, longtime winningest coach in program history over at Northwestern. Pat Fitzgerald takes over under Jonathan Smith, 9-15 the last 2 years, haven't been to a bowl in the last 4. Fitzgerald, if you remember, fired in 2023 for a hazing scandal. He would later sue Northwestern for wrongful termination. They settled out of court in August, and now he is back in this head coaching role. He spoke yesterday about what he thinks this program needs.
The blueprint's there, and if we can marry kind of things that we did that we carry on, get the Spartan dog mentality back to where there's pride from the former guys, there's pride from the Spartan Nation is unbelievable. The fan base is incredible. We've got to put a toughness back on tape. We've got to put a fear of coming in to that arena back on tape. I wouldn't say I have a chip on my shoulder. I wouldn't say our program has a chip on our shoulder. I'd say we have a bag of chips on our shoulder. I'll leave it at that.
Banger. What a bar at the end.
It's not. It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all.
How do you view Michigan State?
The chip is literally, there's there's supposed to be a missing piece, not a bag of chips.
Got to overload the shoulder.
It's ridiculous. You should add whatever. Anyway, honestly, I don't know. That's why I'm really interested. Out of all these teams, there's so many of them. I haven't really had a significant chance to really look into them. The only thing we know is that Fitzgerald does have a history of getting a lot out of some of these programs that he's been the head coach of, namely in his time at Northwestern. I think you'll like bringing in, I think it's from the Kalen DeBoer tree, right? The offensive coordinator for this team, too. So there are some aspects of this offense that I think might have some strong upside coming from a mind like that. So I do think that there is some pretty intriguing blocks to build on here. The question is just, what are you going to get out of the offense? I don't know how to pronounce the kid's name, the quarterback. You want to give it a shot? Alessio, no? Okay. No, either way, Alessio M. Milivojevic, I believe.
I'm not even going to try.
Butchered that?
I'm not even going to try.
I'll look it up and get it proper.
You know how I am. If I don't know it right, I'm not going to try.
Sure. But I think in college football in general, and this is why I wanted to bring it up, because one, we never really talk about programs like this, but two, sometimes I think in professional sports we might overvalue the presence of a good head coach, but in college football, you could really bring a program together with a guy that's just competent, and I think Fitzgerald is just that.
You mentioned the OC, Nick Sheridan, former, as you alluded to, Alabama offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. Joe Rossi is back at D.C. as well. They were really active in the portal. 12 of their projected starters coming in the transfer portal, and it seems like he has a leadership group that's willing to invest in NIL. So maybe not this year do they take the step that you want them to, but in years moving forward they can be that,
Milivojevic. Boom.
That's a lot. I could say Sangafulatelli, but I haven't.
Well, you don't get
so
Big
I don't
Ten
do Big Ten.
games.
That's the thing, is I'm bad. I got Iamaleava for you, though. I've trained you up on that.
No, you have.
Come on.
Iamaleava.
Yes, perfect.
So for our audience, I usually say Iamaleava. So I have the pronunciation right. I just say it improperly when it comes to the stressing of the syllables. Iamaleava. Wait, what is it? See, I get mental about it.
Iamaleava.
I can rattle off Jaron Calvi Sangapulatelli, but I cannot. Iamaleava gets me every time.
Nailed it.
At least I'm not going Iamaleava like a lot of people are.
For the Michigan State schedule,
I'm going to leave the studio. If
Notre Dame at Michigan, Oregon, those games aren't going to be great, but they also face a lot of middling teams in the Big Ten that I think they can be competitive in. Something about Pat Fitzgerald teams is they're going to be fundamentally sound. They're going to be in a lot of those games, but can they actually win it? I'm
Yeah.
not sure. And so that's kind of where I sit on Michigan State. I think this is a really good building block season for them, and I'm curious to see what they'll become in the future. But this year, I don't have the highest of hopes.
Might be one of those plucky dog teams, right? Catches
Sure.
some pretty big numbers in conference play against some of these big boys.
Yeah,
and
like
being
as
able
an
to stick
under,
around.
if you're betting them as a dog, I think that's absolutely
Yeah.
a route to look at and consider.
I'll have
Last
to
year,
look it up. I think Fitzgerald in his career as a coach has been pretty good in that role.
yeah, last year 4-8 for the season, 1-8 in Big Ten play. We'll see if they can begin to right the ship in 2026. When we come back, our NFL training camp tour continues. We're going to deep dive into the Baltimore Ravens next.